as a group and help each other, and then also spend that separate time with you and try to change in small ways again. And I'm really looking for feedback at the end of this session and then at the end of the time with her, so that we can look and see if this is helpful to you in a different way than the more traditional time management courses are, and the more organized, here's a method, use this method, like the Covey type of stuff. And the other person who's the other person, Trip, that we've set?
Oh, David Allen.
David Allen, yeah. So, let me know what you think, please. It's very interactive and just really easy to get along with, and it's open to questions. So, I spent a lot of time here, so I'm going to split.
Thank you, Christy.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
You're using your time.
I was going to say,
Yeah,
I was just going to say the same.
Pushes me all of HR, right?
Oh, everybody's welcome. So thank you so much.
Sure.
So I'd like to welcome everybody today. It's great that it's a small group, because I'm not a quiet person, so I'm going to guess that everybody can hear me. But if you can't, just throw something at me and I'll probably respond. So thank you for taking the time. I know everybody's really busy, especially you with that commute and the 3 children. I know I'm going to enjoy today, and I hope everybody else enjoys it as much as I do. I'm looking forward to getting to know everybody a little bit better. I got to know you a little bit through your exercises, so thank you everybody for sending those in. And as we meet individually over the next few days, I'm going to get to know you a little bit better and be able to work specifically on some of the things that come up today. Before we get started, I'm videotaping. Is that okay with everybody? Just wanted to make sure. This will only be used for me, for my portion. Nobody else here will be involved. Okay? So thank you. I appreciate it. So now for a little bit more of an introduction. Christy was sweet enough to introduce me. My name again is MJ Rosenthal, and I'm the founder and president of An Organized Life. I'm a certified professional organizer and organizational and time balance coach. Has anybody ever worked with a professional organizer? An organizational coach?
I really want to.
My favorite response. I really want to.
I did the Allen seminar.
David Allen seminar. Yep. David Allen's. I actually forgot that book. I pulled those books aside to bring, but
It's on my nightstand, but I don't intend to read it.
ah.
Actually, I did do the Covey. I went to some Covey thing like many years ago.
Yeah.
Got a lot of materials and books and calendars, and I don't know where any of that stuff is.
It's back in the 90s.
It's back
in the
90s,
landfill
although-
somewhere.
It's still, a lot of it still applies. I like to talk about being an organizer and organizer coach as a professional trainer for your space, belongings, and time. So I'm going to help you stay in shape around those areas. My own background is around client service, detail management, and running business units. And I share that with you because we're going to talk about strengths today, strength-based learning, and what we can do with our strengths to help us better manage time. I began my career at Arnold Communications, working 80 hours a week, a little bit of a crazy business, and then moved to Colorado, we were talking about Denver, where I worked for Vail Resorts and ran hotels, general manager of hotels and high-end properties. I also ran corporate events for people coming out to the Valley. And when I moved back to Boston in 2002 to be closer to my family, I ended up working for a sister company for event management called the Best of Boston. We were the largest event planning company in New England. We did the DNC when they came in. We closed down City Hall Plaza for Microsoft when they came in. We did really large-scale events, and I ended up being the general manager for that. Around 2004 and 2005, I really started to notice that need for balance. Has anybody heard busy is the new fine?
No.
People used to walk around and say, how you doing? I'd say, I'm fine. I'm great, thanks for asking. And everyone says, I'm busy. I'm so busy. Busy is the new fine. So I started an organized life to help people create that balance. So when people say, well, what is an organizer? What do you do? My elevator speech is about balancing space and time. But it's really about balance across the board. For me, time management seminars, working one-to-one and coaching, and rolling up my sleeves and getting someone's garage or attic organized, showing them what to do with their space. All three of those are what create balance for me. Over the years, I've done presentations for companies like Clark Shoes, American Express Financial Services. Now I get to add copyright clearance to my list. So I'm very excited to be here. Done some writing recently, most recently actually for Organized Magazine, and then contributing to articles in Money Magazine. And I've been interviewed on New England Cable News, as well as by the Oprah Winfrey Radio Network on the Peter Walsh Show. Everybody know Peter Walsh? Peter Walsh is Oprah's organizing guru from Australia.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. We have recognition. Everybody knows Peter Walsh. So,
And he goes in and helps with like all the hoarders, doesn't he?
yeah, Hoarders is sort of like that reality-based show, you know,
Yeah.
watching the Kardashians, but
Yeah.
he does more of what the normal people do on, say,
He does now?
HGTV.
Okay.
Yeah, not so much of the Hoarders. So I'm passionate about organizing and creating balance out of chaos. I know myself. But what I'm really passionate about, what makes me a much more exciting person, is my love for animals. My downtime, you're going to find me walking my dog. She's the yellow one on the left. That's Miss Annabelle, my 9-year-old Mastiff. Or riding my horse, Cinnamon. Try and get my boyfriend to join me on the rides. He's not into the horseback rides, but Miss Annabelle will still go for a run or a ride with me.
You could always clean the stall or something.
Well, you know, Annabelle actually, unfortunately, does some of that work, which is my favorite part of my Mastiff. But, you know, sometimes it's just the way it is.
Just what dogs do.
Well, it's just what dogs do. So now I want to learn a little bit more about you. And everybody was kind enough to introduce themselves. But I thought we could maybe go around the room, and you could tell me your name again, your role, your general responsibilities, what you're passionate about. I'm curious, what do you love? And then lastly, what's one thing you want to take away from today's seminar? Anybody want to start?
So,
Great. Thanks,
All right.
Meredith.
Meredith McCauley, HR coordinator. My responsibilities at work, basically keeping things organized for my department, processing a lot of the things that go through HR, and make sure all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. Keeping my boss organized, making sure she has what she needs. Just working a lot of the HR stuff. Like the HR stuff happens and kind of trickles through me to make sure it's all cleaned up and fits and done, you know, all organized and correct. What am I passionate about? Personally, being creative. I find that being organized is necessary to be creative. I need my house to be clutter-free to feel that I can decorate it. Right? You know, things like that. So I think being very organized and being very creative go hand in hand for me.
And one thing you'd like to take away from today's time together?
I think there's always a way. I mean, I think of myself as a pretty organized person, but you know, kids will screw that up pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah.
So
Speaking of things that are out of our
there's always
control.
room to get better.
Mhm.
So maybe just learning some of the things like, oh, all right, I'm not doing that as efficiently as I could. That's one of the things it was, or something. Or how to be organized around when something seems too big to conquer and you're putting it off, and how to get over that.
So glad you said that. That's one of the places that we're going to go today.
Ah,
Thank you. Let's go next.
So Joanna Murphy-Scott, I'm the marketing communications manager here, and wear a couple hats. I produce events for CCC with customers and publishers. And
Detail girl.
Detail girl, love it,
Love it.
love it. And I do, when I have time, work with the Marcom team to, you know, collateral, PowerPoint, whatever sort of comes across, different projects like that. And what you said is, I'm right there with you. I love being able to have time to be creative, to make art, to spend time with art, be with my kids who are both really into creating. Same thing, grew up in a super messy house. My house, I like to have everything visually clean. or visually, so like no clutter. So that frees me up in a way. Totally is good, but you can't always have it that way. Last night the house was just, it's winter, it's just getting everything. And I just did this, like, okay, and then I got up really early.
The horse
and started
blinders.
Organizing it all, and like trying to, like that makes you feel a little better when you felt it. I think here with trying, sort of like laughing, my older son is trying to learn some organizing techniques, and I told him I was going to do this today. He couldn't believe it. He's like, Mom, you're all about the schedule, you're about the calendar, you're all about the task.
It's
You're
funny.
the list. And I said, you know what? I am, and I love it, and the more I take on, the happier I am. I like it like that. I like it busy. I think I'm good at multitasking, but increasingly, as there's more to do, and I think I'm getting older, the switching hats is harder. So, like in my job, it's hard to, I'm really focused on one thing. I can do that for hours, love it if it's the one thing. But then trying to fit in something, you're always looking for the perfect being the enemy of the good. And so that I can't start it because I don't have enough time. I can't fit that in, I'll do it tomorrow and I have 3 hours, but you never have the 3 hours. So it's always things push. Overly optimistic view of how you're going to push it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm Matt Peterson. I manage our rights holder relations group, which is really the one of the teams that handles the vast majority of our publisher-facing business. So, responsible for handling 10,000 publishers that work with CCC and have a team of 7 or 8 people. What am I passionate about? Passionate about my kids. Really is first and foremost for me. I'm not the most organized person. I realize that I work hard to remain organized because I'm the type of person, if I'm not organized, things quickly fall apart on me. So I have to really conscientiously strive to stay on top of things. What Meredith and Joanna said is true. Is really, for me, it's how do you manage the large projects when you don't have large chunks of time, and it's also kind of managing sort of the interruptions day to day. I think when you have a team, it becomes how do you help manage that team effectively and give them the time that they need while making sure that you have the time that you need to do your role. I have so I think we probably all do, a fairly please keep in the room because I can't think of a better word, needy boss, who demands a lot. And so it really is kind of how do you carve that time out to, respond to people's needs, but your own too. Those are probably the big things for me.
Can I say that we also, in tandem, we have a very meeting-heavy environment.
Oh, God.
And I think that's very difficult.
Oh, that's actually huge. I'm glad you said that. I mean, it's not uncommon to have virtually every day filled with 5 or 6 hours of meetings throughout the day. That's a fairly regular day for me.
Even the lunch hours, the 12 o'clock hours are no longer lunch hours. It's
Absolutely.
meeting, bring your lunch.
And meetings are starting at
Yes.
8:30 and they're ending
Yeah.
at 6. So that's hard. I'm glad you said that.
Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate it.
I'll go next. I'm Julie Woodsum. I'm the trade show manager here at CCC.
More details.
So yes, so I love details. I'm very analytical. I love numbers, and I do consider myself somewhat of an organized person. But there's always room for improvement. Like what everyone else has said, it's the giant projects when you don't have the time. It's the constant emails from everyone. What about this? Or did you think about this? Or can I have access to this? Change my reservation. It's constant, multiple, juggling those priorities while trying to tackle the larger projects. So I would love to be able to take, something away that I could use personally, as well as something that I could use professionally here at work. I am passionate about life. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I love creating experiences and just memories and doing different activities with my kids and family. So, jumping out of airplanes, love it all.
Really?
Roller
You
coasters.
really jumped out of an airplane.
I can't wait to do it again.
Oh, you were insane.
I know. I
I'm
love
gonna
it.
go with you're insane. I'm sorry.
I'm thinking of
throwing in
doing
every
it.
Angel
You won't
button.
get me on a Ferris wheel.
I wanna take piloting lessons to learn how to fly a helicopter. It's all on my list. Getting my motorcycle license.
Yeah,
Yes.
she makes it more fun to come to work, though.
Yeah.
We live vicariously through that.
Well, I
go
was
with
just
that.
like, how do I get Sophie to stay in her bed? Oh my God.
Right.
And every
You're
challenge
fine.
is a challenge.
I have. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
My name is Robert Gagin, Marcom manager. My
What's Marcom?
Marketing communications,
Marketing
just shorthand
communications,
for marketing
okay.
communications. It's kind of it's a pretty broad title. There's lots that go into it. So my chief responsibility is really writing. That's what I do for 95% of the day. So it's just writing, materials to generate interest in our products, build awareness of copyright. Just do a lot of content marketing, bringing people to us. What am I passionate about? I am passionate about, my family now, my kids, my kid, but still getting used to saying that. It's not natural. I mean, it's only been 3.5 months, but so he takes up a lot of time because there are two jobs now. It's this job, and when you get home, it's like
Your wife is like, here you go.
So my whole life is really just to-do lists. I have to-do lists at my desk that are on Post-its, in my notebook, on my whiteboard, on spreadsheets. I'm trying to be organized, but in having multiple, it seems like kind of a frenzy. If you looked at my desk, it's cluttered, and it's kind of, my desks have always been cluttered since college days, and I'm fairly comfortable in it. I know where stuff is. I look at other people who are really organized and have super neat desks, and I envy that. I don't know how I would ever get to that point. I think, so I've been living disorganized for a long time. So what I want to get out of this is just some sort of best practices, some practical things that I could do when I leave here and go back to my desk and just, figure out better ways to, prioritize projects. I tend to gravitate towards a project that was just given to me. The new and fresh thing.
We call that important versus urgent. That new thing is feeling really urgent.
Right, and I mean, I try to be mindful of what's the most important to the business, but I think my natural inclination is to jump on the thing that was the hottest, need it now kind of thing. And there's a lot of needy
People.
folks here. Just to, it's all in the room.
What's important for the business may not always be what's important to the person who's
Exactly.
asking you
Yeah.
things. Which is
And we have a lot of number one priorities. I mean, everything is number one priority.
Everything.
Nothing is. So everybody agrees. We know what I'm talking about.
That was that question.
It's just the culture. It's just the culture of the organization. Everything's the number one priority, and you have to treat it as it is. So that's it.
Thank you. Trip?
Trip Cullen, with Human Resources, title is Human Resources Manager, basically a generalist. What am I passionate about? Healthy workplaces. One of the things that amazes me, it's a second question I have, and I can't answer it, is that we know so much, information is exploding, we know so much about what constitutes a healthy workplace and what makes people productive, and somehow it never ever gets into organizations, and I'm not quite sure why that is. And people kind of revert back to a lot of old kind of dysfunctional behaviors. And but I can identify with everything that everybody said here. I mean, I had days where I go from one meeting to the next meeting to the next meeting, and my notes from the meeting get thrown in a pile on my desk because and then I have to leave because I have a obligation after hours, and I come back and the next day it's meeting after meeting. So at the end of the week you go through and think, gee, I told somebody 2 days ago I was going to get this to them, and I was going to do that. And then the other thing that for me I think is hard is there are two things. One is I'm moderately well organized. When I come in the day, I have a list of things I want to get done for the day. But then you just lose control of your day. Somebody comes in and says, I need this right away, and they want you to drop everything and work on it. So you get into this stops and starts thing, and I think you lose a lot. I lose a lot of time with saying, gee, that was 2 weeks ago, where was I on that? And it takes me 20 or 30 minutes, and oftentimes I end up repeating work that I've already done, because I forgot that I got that far on it. And then somebody else comes in. And, the other thing that I think is an issue here is that I don't think oftentimes people have a lot of respect for people in terms of they're doing work, and is what I have more important than what they're working on? Could it
Interruption
wait?
nation.
Yeah, it really is. And I try to be part of the nation of my job. It's important that, in the grand scheme of things, maybe it's not a crisis for the organization, but to them it's a crisis, and they want to deal with that kind of thing. But there are other times when, I remember the past president came down one time, I was in the middle of an interview, and employee relations was sobbing in my office, and he knocks on my door, we used to have bosses there, and drags me out, and what he wanted was the most minor thing in the world, somebody's phone number. It easily could have waited, or he could have sent me an email. And I remember I raised the issue with him. He didn't like it, saying, what I was doing was a lot more important than this. This easily could have waited. Because I had a thing, in a meeting on my office door, but he wanted it now. As he said, well, I want to cross it off my list. And, so I think that's some of the issues we get into, everything being a number one priority.
Why is your list more important than?
Yeah, exactly. And I think we don't make sort of priority decisions. This is the number one thing, and this is the number two. And this is, I ran into a director a couple of weeks ago who said, "I just got my fifth. This is your number one priority today for the day." It's 10 o'clock in the morning.
And what does it look like?
It's
when
all
everything
common,
is-
isn't it?
Yes.
Everything's, I don't think that's important. Everything that's being said here sits on, we deal with the same.
All our days.
Right, so how can you possibly succeed, and how can you have a vision in mind when it can't all be 100 miles an hour?
I remember, I don't know how long ago it was, but the company tried to institute the meeting-free Fridays.
Oh, yeah.
To give
Oh,
everyone like a
interesting.
free afternoon. Nobody could schedule meetings, and this was your time to sit here and actually cross stuff off your list. It didn't last.
So important.
And then everyone would say, I know you're free on Friday afternoon, so I'm going to schedule a meeting. And it just went away.
Well,
So-
because you got pressure to get this resolved, and the only
Exactly.
place they had a spot was
is
on
that
Friday
everybody
afternoon.
knew. So,
Yeah.
right. So, I mean, that was a great concept to think about. Like, all right,
Yeah.
you know what? This is my time. I have 3 hours to sit at my desk and focus and start crossing things off. But it didn't last.
There was a chunk of time before the holidays in our group, a couple of folks, Robert included, the Friday afternoon around 2 would be like, where is everybody? Because you start changing gears, but you're getting ready for the next week too. Like, where are they? And you had so many meetings scheduled in that time period, which is like till 4:30 on Friday. That's hard to transition out
Mhm.
at that.
Very hard.
Then the other thing is, I don't know if you guys get this, I get this too. I have 3 meetings, but people are so frustrated trying to book you because you're busy.
Yeah.
They just book a meeting on it, so you go to 2 o'clock and you got 3 meetings booked.
Yep.
Pick the one you want to go to.
It's a sign when you're trying to find a meeting room in the company.
Oh, my God.
And you can't even find one.
Right.
But I think the larger issue, in just my opinion, is we're such a consensus-building organization that you have to have meetings all the time with large groups of people because you have to build consensus and everybody needs to feel comfortable with decisions. And it's like risk-averse, or I don't know, there's not a lot of, I don't know why that is, but I think we have all these meetings because it's like people have an unease about,
Well, I think part of it's a notion, this is my hypothesis, part of it's a notion that I have to agree with everything that we're doing as opposed to if somebody else has a responsibility to it. I wouldn't necessarily do it that way, but there's 15 different ways to do that, 12 of which will be
have some
successful.
trust in your, have some trust.
Sometimes I just want someone to tell me what we're doing and why.
Yeah.
Or not even why.
Yeah,
Just tell me
or
we're
what, tell me what you need me
Those
to do.
parameters feel great.
Yes.
Just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I need to get it done.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want you to know what you're experiencing here. Since you're experiencing it, everybody here experiences it. This is what people experience every day. This is not unusual. And one thing we do need to do when we talk about time balance is sort of base ourselves in reality. And I don't know if there's anything we can do today, this week, next month about meeting nation.
Yep.
I think there's evolution in interruption nation. There's evolution in the way we manage what we need to do and get things done. The meeting piece, I might just put on the shelf for a bit, but I think it's important for your HR team to keep that in mind that is one of the challenges that the team is hearing, that meetings going back and forth are a big piece. But learning what we're challenged with here has been a big help, and I really appreciate everybody sharing that and being as open as possible. I wanted to actually launch into the agenda, and because I'm visual and I like to know where we're going, I'm going to bring up a lot of strengths today. Thought I'd show this to you. I've already sort of gone over the intro, and then we're going to launch into time balance. And what is time balance? Why aren't I calling this time management? We're going to look at the exercise results. And please know, I just put person number, I put 5 out of 6 surveys so nobody's going to know who belongs to what, so it's confidential. We're going to talk about the challenges and strengths around the organization and around time balance. And then we're going to take a break, about 15 minutes, so everybody can breathe, check their email, get some water. You've probably noticed so far, I like to make things interactive. I ask a lot of questions. Please note, if you're not comfortable answering something, just say, I'm not sure. But what I would like to ask is that you jot that down. Because if you're not comfortable, if it makes you feel a little odd, if it's something that you're not sure that you want to respond to, there's something there. You need to sort of figure out what's there. So I ask you just to take a note on that. We're a small group, so I invite questions. If we end up running short on time, I may defer to the end, but I think that will be okay. All right? Any questions so far? Excellent. So, topic today is time balance, not time management. My first quote, you can't manage time. You can manage what you do with your time, but you can't actually manage time. We can't make it longer, we can't make it shorter. We certainly can't save it so we have 3 hours extra to sleep before we go to work. That would be really nice. But we don't have the ability to really manage it. All we can do is figure out what to do and work within that time. You look at the game Boggle, you get that little hourglass, sand through the hourglass, it really gives you a visual of time. So because we can't manage time, what we can do is figure out what our priorities are and be really purposeful. And you're going to hear me use that word purposeful a lot. Today we're going to talk about creating routines, being purposeful, there's that word again, in our choices, understanding and using our strengths. I think that's one of the most important things. What do I do well? What do I do naturally? Understanding and using those strengths and corresponding tools. If you're a visual person, having somebody tell you instructions in your ear, I'm very visual and kinesthetic. And people would say, oh, here's the directions. Drive up 95 and then take a left on Rosewood, and they'd be like, oh, whoa. I can't process that. So really sort of playing into what your strengths are. And then here's the big one. Consistently engaging in whatever that routine is. Second quote, I actually added this fairly late last night. The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. William James said that. I thought that was interesting because the highest score, one of the highest scores that was received in the exercise overall in the average, was very often to often, I'm feeling stressed about deadlines, which in a way is normal. But now we know that controlling stress is our ability of choosing thought over it and being purposeful. This came on my little tiny Google feed, so I thought I'd include that. So before we get into the exercise results, I wanted to just get some feedback. If you thought it was interesting, if you learned anything, if it was hard. Anybody was okay with it?